Hello, my name is Lizzie Kennedy and I'm the current coordinator at the Community Writing Center and would like to thank you for viewing our virtual workshop on writing political letters. Here at the Community Writing Center, we serve the Great Lakes Bay region through one-on-one consultations and writing workshops, all free of charge. The purpose of this specific workshop is to learn how to write an effective political letter in order to become a more active and engaged citizen, and the audience is any person that's interested in writing to their elected officials about topics they care deeply about. The only materials that you will be needing for this workshop are paper and a writing utensil to take notes throughout the workshop and practice writing during the given drafting time. All of our workshops here at the Community Writing Center aim to create an inclusive, respectful, and productive environment for all writers, and we seek to provide feedback, strategies, and resources that writers need to improve their writing. Lastly, we encourage collaboration between writers through both active conversation and participation. To begin, I'd like to invite you to take 5 minutes to participate in this quick write answering these 3 questions. What are 1 or 2 issues that you care about? Why do you care about these issues? And what exactly can your elected official do to help address these issues? The purpose of this exercise is to get you to start thinking about issues and topics that you care about the most, and how exactly you'd like your elected officials to address those concerns. I recommend pausing the video here and drafting for the full 5 minutes before moving on to the rest of the workshop. The basic question we should start by answering is why exactly we should write to our elected officials. Firstly, you're a constituent, and writing to elected officials is one of our rights as American citizens under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Our officials are meant to represent the American people and address our best interests when making laws and policies. Specifically, writing to elected officials is a way to share your thoughts and concerns and encourage officials to take your input into account when making major decisions. Many times, these pieces of writing can also be submitted to local newspapers as letters to the editor, which is a way to make your concerns more public and raise awareness on topics you care deeply about. Before writing a political letter, you must first identify what issue or issues you will be addressing and who is most likely to be able to take action on those concerns. You almost always want to address someone who represents you directly. If you get to vote for them, they will care more about what you think. This might include state or federal representatives, state or federal senators, the state governor, or even the United States president. Writing to officials about large, overarching problems is not always the most effective strategy, though, and you should instead focus on specific problems that can be addressed. For example, do not write to the United States President regarding infrastructure concerns in Michigan, and don't write to the Governor of Michigan about Supreme Court cases that she has no ability to influence one way or another. Do your research on different representatives and senators, specifically looking at what they have the ability to vote on, and address 1 or more officials who can directly take the course of action that you will suggest in your political letter. Once you've decided what you will write about and who you will write to, research the best form of contact for that individual. Many elected officials have a website that will list their preferred method of contact, usually under a link or heading labeled Contact. This will usually direct you to a mailing address, an email address, or a phone number. On our website, you can access a file with a sample contact list with examples of Michigan representatives, as well as links to research who you should contact and what each representative's duties are. I highly recommend checking out this list if you are unsure where you should start in your search for an elected official to write to. The next step in writing an effective political letter is choosing the best medium. Obviously, if the official you have chosen has a preferred method of contact, you should use that medium. However, hard copy letters are usually the most effective medium because they demonstrate time, thought, and effort put into expressing your concerns. This is the preferred method of engagement unless an official explicitly states that they would prefer a different form of contact. Email is much less personal than letters and should be used only if you are expressing less urgent concerns, or concerns you don't feel as strongly about. Emails are typically much shorter and less in-depth, so this should not be your primary form of contact unless requested by the official to whom you are writing. With both letters and emails, always be sure to use professional language in a business letter format. Phone calls are a way to verbally express your concerns with an elected official, but typically only lead you to speak to a member of an official's office or their team as opposed to the official themselves. Phone calls can be very effective on a specific day when an official is voting on an important issue, but you must be very prepared ahead of time and concisely express your argument using facts. When crafting an effective political letter, first impressions do matter. Above all, an effective political letter must be polite and professional in order to express your thoughts and concerns in a respectful manner. In order to maintain professional standards, you should firstly type your letter as opposed to handwriting it, and you should use correct grammar and spelling and a polite and formal phrasing and tone. Additionally, be sure to address your reader accurately and respectfully to make a stronger first impression. This might mean referring to them as Mr. or Mrs. President, the Honorable, giving their full name, or Dear Mr. or Mrs., using their surname. This might involve a little research to find out how a specific official should be addressed. Before beginning to draft your political letter, you should start by brainstorming exactly why you are writing. Identify your main goal for the letter and practice summarizing that goal into a single sentence to help inform the rest of your letter. In order to write an effective letter, you must show the reader that you not only care deeply about the topic you are addressing, but that you've done your research and have considered the causes, outcomes, and potential solutions to the problem. A well-informed letter is a more effective letter. It can be helpful to use the analogy of a tree to guide your brainstorming process. The trunk of the tree is the main big issue that you're addressing, while the leaves represent the symptoms or outcomes of that issue, and the roots represent the causes of your main issue. It's important that you research and consider all of these different parts, because an effective letter offers a solution to the root of the problem. It is not enough to merely argue that a core issue exists, but you must make an effective argument for addressing the root causes of that issue. Once you've brainstormed and decided who you will be addressing, as well as researched the causes and outcomes of the topic you're writing about, you can start actually organizing your political letter. The first section should provide a brief introduction of yourself and introduce the problem or piece of legislation that you are writing about. This first section should also discuss the direct solution of what needs to be done in order to fix or improve the situation. You can think of this, the core issue, as the trunk of the tree that we discussed earlier. The second section of your letter should be where you build your argument and make your case for why the issue is important and needs to be addressed. Make your case effectively by using facts or statistics from research, refer to your own personal expertise, or incorporate your personal experience. This section should remain formal and professional, though, even if you are referring to personal details. Think of this section as the leaves of the tree. The third section of your letter is especially important because this is where you create a call to action by asking your reader, an elected official, to do something about the issue you've described. You should directly answer the question of how specifically your reader can address the problem you've discussed. Remember, the solution should address the root causes of the problem, not merely the symptoms or outcomes. So keep in mind that this section should refer back to the roots of the tree analogy. Now that we've gone over the basic sections of a political letter and talked through the brainstorming process, I'm going to share a sample political letter with you, and we'll break down this letter into root causes, the core issue, and the symptoms or outcomes of the problem using the tree analogy. This sample political letter begins by giving the date January 4th, 2010, and addresses the reader by saying, "Dear President Obama, I am a small business owner in Indiana, a resident of Louisville, Kentucky, and the government considers me wealthy. I'm writing to tell you our family story so that during this time of planning for healthcare reform, my concerns will be considered. My son, who is a senior in high school, was diagnosed with a rare illness in February of 2008. His disease course and possibility for remission remain an unknown. He has handled this hardship admirably. Michael is an honor student and has continued to make good choices in the face of life's adversities. We are very proud of him. To provide care and to decrease long-term risks associated with his current drug treatment plan. My husband and I are seeking to use a novel drug that is not FDA approved for this condition. Given the drug's off-label status, it is questionable that insurance will cover its cost. The projected cost of the drug for Michael is estimated to be $20,000 to $25,000 annually. As the owner of a small business, tax codes dictate that I must pay for my own family's insurance with after-tax dollars. The amount of personal income that I must earn to cover Michael's expenses and to provide for family health insurance is staggering by any standard. I employ 35 people in the state of Indiana and 5 from the state of Kentucky, and pay all of those associated taxes. The thought of me or my business being asked to do more to cover the outrageous cost of healthcare reform is infuriating, to say the least. My husband and I have a philosophy of to whom much is given, much is expected, but we have reached our limit. We have historically put family first, we have put education first, and we have placed a priority in treating people kindly and fairly in our workplace. We have given generously to charitable organizations because it has been the correct thing to do. To my knowledge, we have been a burden to no one, and I have seldom complained about giving to others through our current system of taxation, but I am exhausted. My son is my responsibility and my number one priority. I am bitter that I am being asked to do more. Please speak and act on my behalf. With regards, Laura Howard Strong, DVM. The beginning of this letter is a good example of how the author introduces herself and explains the situation regarding the problem she is writing about. She offers background information and incorporates personal experience to introduce the problem of high healthcare costs. This constitutes the first section that we discussed earlier. The second part of this letter is where the author builds her case. She has clearly done her research on drug costs, specifically off-label drugs, and includes information on the staggering prices that she is faced with. It was also effective to include her own experience with tax codes to demonstrate that she runs a business, has a number of employees, and understands the taxes that she is responsible for. This is an example of Section 2 of the structure we discussed earlier. The last section of this letter is where the author should make her call to action. She does ask the reader, President Obama, to speak on her behalf, but this author is missing a clear solution. As we discussed earlier, the call to action should address the root cause of the issue and offer a solution to those root causes. The author of this letter does not touch on whether the root issue is tax codes, the cost of off-label drugs, or lack of insurance coverage in general. Because of this, her letter lacks a clear solution, and it is not as effective as it could be if she had, for example, researched upcoming legislation on insurance coverage, looked into FDA drug pricing guidelines that should be changed, or suggested improvements to the current small business tax codes. Additionally, it's important to notice some of the word choices that this author makes. Terms such as outrageous, infuriating, and bitter imply aggressiveness or criticism that may be counterproductive. To make this letter more effective and professional, it may have been beneficial for the writer to rephrase that she understands the reasons behind some of the systems and regulations in place, but that she thinks that they could be improved. This is often more constructive than outright criticism. To refer back to our tree analogy, let's take a look at how Laura's letter could be broken up. The main issue of her letter seems to be the affordability of the off-label drug needed for Michael's illness. The root causes of this lack of affordability could be broken down into the FDA pricing for off-label drugs, a lack of adequate insurance coverage, or small business tax codes. The outcome or symptoms of this problem seem to include having to provide insurance coverage for 40 employees, the difficulty paying employee and small business taxes, and the potential inability to allocate money to other causes that Laura mentions, such as charitable organizations and education. If Laura had engaged in this type of brainstorming, she may have been better equipped to address the root causes more effectively rather than focusing solely on the issue and its outcomes. This would have created a more clear call to action. We've now engaged with a few brainstorming techniques, gone over the different sections of political letters, and analyzed a sample letter written to an elected official. Now it's time to try your hand at writing a political letter. For the next 15 to 20 minutes, practice drafting a letter. First, identify who your reader will be, the main issue or concern that you want to discuss, and then break down the root causes and outcomes that you think are necessary to create a call to action for your reader. This is a draft, so it's okay if you don't have an elected official in mind yet, or if you haven't fully done the research necessary to write about your topic. But you should have a basic idea of concerns you have and what you would like your political representatives to do about those concerns. I encourage you to pause the video here and draft for the full 15 to 20 minutes before moving on. To summarize this workshop, here are a few key takeaways. Firstly, do your research. Make sure you know who you are writing to and what you are writing about. Being well informed is key to writing an impactful letter. Also, be sure to use a polite and formal tone throughout your letter, even if you do not necessarily agree with the political leanings of your reader. Lastly, it's incredibly important to include a call to action or a suggestion for your reader to act on the issue you've discussed. The more specific your call to action, the better. While you may not necessarily receive a personal response back from the person to whom you are writing, your words very well may help inform their future decisions. Offering your input can go a long way in getting your voice heard. I'd like to thank you again for viewing this virtual workshop, and I hope that you are now more equipped to write an effective and impactful political letter. Feel free to contact us on Facebook or via email at ccw@svsu.edu, and be sure to check out our website, communitywritingcenter.com, for updates on upcoming workshops and writing opportunities. Additionally, if you would like a tutor to look over a political letter you've been writing, feel free to sign up for a free one-on-one consultation via email or Zoom, and we would be more than happy to provide you with feedback. Information about signing up for a consultation can be found on our website.